made the games relevant for the rest of the season and looked like potentially they're rounding into some kind of form which could make them a little bit of a danger as far as the MLS is concerned, as they get the victory by a count of 1-0. I always think of the fans. You probably get tired of me saying this, but what these two wins did is create some excitement for the stretch run in MLS. This Sporting Kansas City season, so star-crossed due to injury and just form of play eventually, and sort of the way that just nothing has seemed to go right for Sporting Kansas City, suddenly has taken a little bit of a turn and made the games down the stretch a little bit more fun for the fans. So Sporting alive, breathing, but on a respirator a little bit in MLS. We checked in a little bit on the baseball. We'll check in on it a lot more coming up as we talk on the Weekend Sports Wrap. I'm Danny Klinkscale at DannyKlinkscale.com and the Reasonably Irreverent Commentary. Thanks for coming along. More next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Welcome back to the Weekend Sports Wrap, and let's talk a little baseball, and let's start off with something that one of my friends and cohorts, Curtis Seabolt, is an absolute geek about, which is uniforms. I'm not quite as much as him, but I am pretty far along the way to that degree, too. It was Players Weekend for the Major League Baseball players, and they got to put any name they wanted on the back of their uniform or any spikes that they chose to, things like that. And baseball trotted out an alternate uniform for the teams, and basically the alternate uniform was kind of the same all around baseball. One team would wear dark color black, or the other team would wear white, and they sort of looked like something that maybe a spaceman would wear or something like that. And I think they were very underwhelming, and I think the reaction was totally underwhelming. thing, and maybe it came most into focus last night on Sunday Night Baseball when the Yankees and the Dodgers were playing, and two of the iconic franchises in the history of baseball with two of the most iconic uniforms in the history of baseball, and neither team has much gone in basically almost at all for alternate uniforms. The Dodgers home uniforms, which are basically the template for Royals uniforms back in the day, although the Royals wear a variety of different things now, are classic, and the Yankees, certainly their home uniforms are classic. Their road uniforms are only classic because of the New York Yankees. They're kind of drab, but they're certainly famous and iconic, and when they're not wearing them, it looked really kind of silly, to be honest. But the other part that struck me was how non-creative the nicknames were for most of the players. Many of them had one letter for a nickname, like G. There was a player, Greg Allen on the Indians, was just G. And some of the others were, if the guy's name was McDonald, it would be Mac. Or it just seemed that, I didn't see every uniform in baseball, certainly. Probably the only clever one that made me laugh a little bit was Shane Bieber of the Cleveland Indians wore a uniform that said, "Not Justin," which was clever, obviously, and he's not Justin Bieber. But it made me think of the fact, and all I did was, baseball has had tremendous nicknames all through its history, some of them very non-politically correct that they would not have now or not use or not even say, but some of them just funny or creative or clever. And all I had to do was go literally and look at about 5 pages of the baseball encyclopedia to come up with Klondike, Stinky, Kiddo, The Little Professor, Vinegar Bend, The Little Globetrotter. I mean, where were those? So I think a little more thought and creativity could go into the things on Players Weekend. But Players Weekend basically was just like most weekends for the Kansas City Royals, although maybe you could say that a weekend where they win a game is one where it's a little bit different. The Royals have gone to another one of those patches as they've dropped 21 of their last 28, even with yesterday's, oh my goodness, they almost blew it, but won victory over the Cleveland Indians as they spit up a 5-run lead in the last 2 innings and a 4-run lead in the 9th inning, only to win on a Ryan O'Hearn home run. And O'Hearn hit 2 home runs in the game, and you had to feel really good for him. He was hitting about 140 in his time back in the major leagues after he went to the minors because of an early season slump that saw him hit about 170. So on the season, way below 200 even after this day. But 2 home runs, including the game winner eventually, as the Royals were a winner and took 1 of the 3 games in the series. They return home to take on Oakland. The Royals are playing teams right now that very badly need to win. They're totally engaged, and that creates a situation where the Royals are going to lose a lot of games, and lose they are. And you try to look for the bright spots, of which they aren't really very many, but one of those is Nicky Lopez, who was, taking a weekly beating on this segment because he just has not been able to hit. But right now, he had a couple of hits yesterday. He has an 8-game hitting streak. He's got his average almost up to 240. Actually drove the ball for some key runs in the game yesterday, so that's a bit of a bright spot for the Royals. And there's tons of negative things that you could say about the Royals. Their starting pitching, you just don't know where you're going to go for it in the future. Brad Keller continues to be pretty good. Jacob Junis wasn't very good the other day. Some of the other pitchers will trot out a decent outing every now and then, but they don't go very deep into ball games. They don't usually pitch particularly well. Then you turn it over to a bullpen, which is overtaxed and features, at times, guys you don't even know who the hell they are when they come into the game. And that's just the sign of a team that's headed for another 100-plus loss season. And then the one story that probably is the most depressing, if you're a Royals fan, has been the play of Bubba Starling. His one patch of good hitting down in the minor leagues got him a promotion. Probably another player wouldn't have gotten that promotion because he certainly hasn't proved it in the long term. I'm not so sure the Royals were all that fired up to bring him up either, but probably it was a situation, seeing as they did release him last year but then signed him back, that just figure, hey, we've got to find out if that little patch gave him a little confidence down in the minor leagues, but it certainly has proved not to. And after a promising start and the fact that he still fields his position quite well, it's been just really a disaster for Bubba, and all he's learning right now is just that all the struggles that he had in the minor leagues were perhaps real and were perhaps what Bubba Starling is as a hitter as far as baseball is concerned. He's hitting .098 in August. He has 24 strikeouts in his 61 at-bats, and that certainly has been one of the real negatives and a host of negatives for the Kansas City Royals as they continue to lose most games, and we'll see if this is about the time last year where they perked up and played pretty good baseball down the stretch, which raised some optimism for the start of this particular season that they could get something rolling. But there are no signs that that's going to happen this time around. But frankly, there were no signs that was going to happen last time around either. So maybe Nicky Lopez can continue to hit, and you can continue to see the good play of Whit Merrifield. And Jorge Soler yesterday hit a home run. He had gone a couple of weeks without a home run after hitting his 35th, so that was certainly a good sign. You wouldn't have wanted to see him just completely go in the tank after a really strong stretch of play. So you really grasp and glean for bright spots when it comes to the Kansas City Royals, and there are few of those right now. And as the kids return to school, the crowds will be small out at the K, and the baseball will be of the playing out the string variety, but it's still Major League Baseball. You still try to pay attention, and you still look for signs of life that would indicate, in maybe unlikely fashion, that the Royals are going to be an impactful baseball team in any of the next few years. And it's really my pleasure to conclude this week with an inspirational story and a story of great sacrifice. One of my very best friends ever since my college days is Brian Moylan. He lives in this area, and his brother is named Danny Moylan, and actually Danny and Brian and one other guy and me actually shared a tiny little apartment for a short period of time back in the day. But Brian clued me into a story about his nephew recently. And Danny Moylan's son, Liam Moylan, is a soccer player at Johns Hopkins University, and he is a rising senior, and his senior year is being compromised a little bit at the outset when he had the chance to be a starting player for Johns Hopkins, because he's done a wonderful thing and followed through with a tremendous commitment that he made many years ago. When he was a freshman, the football team at Johns Hopkins has an initiative for people to sign up to be bone marrow donors. And so he did that with a few members of his soccer team and his teammates, and then maybe kind of put it in the rearview mirror. And then earlier this year in June, he was contacted and because his name came up on a list as a potential match donor for someone, and that someone is someone he does not even know. And he may not ever know them, but hopefully he will, because that would mean there's a great conclusion to this story. What he had to do was have 30% of his blood taken out in a procedure that includes taking the bone marrow out through his back. And this surgery was done in early August, just before practice for the season was to begin. And certainly you lose that kind of blood, it's very debilitating, and he is only now just returning to complete health. What it has done is sacrificed his positioning as far as practice is concerned, the potential maybe to be a starter right from the outset. And he thinks it probably will be a few games before he gets into the lineup. But he just said, this is something that I just had to do, even if maybe I'd forgotten a little bit about it, because the chance to save somebody's life and the chance to perhaps give somebody a tremendous quality of life in exchange for some time on the field was a sacrifice that he was willing to make, and I don't think it's a sacrifice that everybody would be willing to make. And Brian Moylan, my friend, is certainly one of the most good-hearted people that you'll ever meet, and it certainly seems to run in the Moylan family, because Liam Moylan has done something that is just one of the great sides of sports that we like to hear in those stories. We hear so many stories that are not negative things, and this is a young man with his last opportunity to play significant soccer maybe for his entire lifetime, and he was willing to put that on the back burner to perhaps save someone's life and perhaps give somebody a very much increased quality of life. He gets little bits of information, but he does not know who the person is. And 12 months down the line, if the outcome is a good one, he potentially will get to meet the person that he maybe saved the life of, or certainly increased the quality of life for that particular person. So my hat goes off to Liam Moylan, doing something that is courageous and really a great commitment at a time of life when a lot of people maybe